Welcome to Healers Talk Healing, the podcast where we gather to explore the art and science of holistic healing, uncovering the secrets to a happier, healthier you. I'm your host, Nina Ganguly, and together we will delve into the intriguing world of holistic healing, delving into the mind-body connection, ancient wisdom, and natural remedies. Get ready for enlightening stories, thought-provoking expert interviews, and practical tips that will empower you to unlock your true potential and embrace a vibrant, balanced life. Whether you're an experienced wellness enthusiast or simply curious about the power of healing, join us on this exhilarating journey as we share the wisdom and insights that can truly transform your life. It's time to embark on a voyage towards a happier, healthier you. So, without further ado, let's dive into the captivating world of Healers Talk Healing. Welcome to another episode of Healers Talk Healing. Today we're thrilled to be joined by Valerie Aloisio, hemp lifestyle entrepreneur, global business leader, and passionate advocate for natural healing. After a successful corporate career, Valerie embraced entrepreneurship over 25 years ago, seeking more freedom, fulfillment, and purpose. A personal loss inspired her journey into the health and wellness space, eventually leading her to the groundbreaking world of hemp and cannabinoids. As a founding member of Cannaway and a leading educator on the Endocannabinoid system, Valerie has become a driving force in bringing the science-backed healing potential of cannabinoids to healthcare professionals and communities worldwide. In this powerful conversation, Valerie shares how cannabinoids, compounds naturally found in hemp, can support the body's own regulatory systems, offering relief for chronic conditions, stress, inflammation, and more. We explore her mission to destigmatize plant medicine, promote education over fear, and lead a global movement that blends holistic wellness with economic empowerment. If you're curious about natural alternatives, the business of healing, or how plant-based wellness is transforming lives, this episode is for you. Oh my gosh, I'm so super excited to have our next guest with us, Valerie. Valerie, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today to share all of your expertise. Those of you who have been listening, you've heard her bio. We've started out talking preemptive talking. As you all know, I do a lot of preemptive talking before I hit record. And sometimes I think I should just record right from the beginning, get all those snippets. And maybe I'll do that next time. And I keep saying it and I don't do it. And maybe next time I'll just let it record. But Valerie, the question that I ask all of our guests before we get into the nitty-gritty of who you are and what you do and how you came to be who you are right now, what is your definition of healing?
Wow. Thank you so much for having me. And I love our conversation so far. So it's going to be a pleasure to be with you and the audience today. The first word that comes to mind is balance, because if we're not in balance, how well can we be? So, I guess we can expand on that, but that's the first thing that comes to mind because there's just so much when it comes to healing oneself, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. There is so much. I think healing is such a small word, but a huge impact and a lot behind it. And, you've had a very interesting journey into the space that you're in currently. And of course, inquiring minds want to know. Yeah. Tell us about how you stepped into this journey. Teach us your expertise. We're here to learn from you and then be able to walk away and use some of the information that you've given us to help us on our journeys.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yes. We all come to our place, I think, as a result, if we're guided and we move into that step. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's scary. But my whole journey started, 25, over 30 years ago. I lost my mother to breast cancer. She was only 59 years old, and I had a 3-year-old and was pregnant with my daughter. So as a young mom, losing your best friend and your mom at such a young age, you start to think, and why is this happening? And now we look 30 years since that time, everyone that we know is dealing with cancer or some kind of
Yes.
disease, right? So how did that all happen? And as a new mom, I was like, I'm going to do everything possible to make sure that my kids are raised in as healthy a way as possible, because this should never happen. I have two wonderful sisters, and we're all so close. And so it really, the driving force was trying to learn when my mom got initially sick with cancer 10 years prior,
Mm.
what kind of things can we do to keep ourselves fit, healthy, and young and deal naturally with this? Because obviously the chemicals and stuff, although helpful, isn't the be all end all. And so that's where the inquiring mind, not me, started going. And it was all because of that personal experience. And then, fast forward a few years after losing her, I went through a divorce and my own personal, story of depression and anxiety and all that stuff that goes along with, okay, as a single mom, raising two kids and, losing your best friend, like all that stuff is turned into it. And I think that's what led me down that path of understanding, about mental health, having gone through depression and anxiety and, having to be there for my kids when you don't want to. I mean, how many people have these kinds of things that they face? And, I don't know what pulls you out of things. I know for me, it was a faithful situation, and saying, my kids deserve more and I got to get myself well. And that led then on to, a friend sharing wellness products with me that really helped. And that was just the beginning. Then I couldn't get enough of it, studying nutrition and kinesiology and just so many things. And being in a space with other health and wellness practitioners and healers and all those things that just led me to where I am today, which, we'll get into, but it is talking about the cannabis industry, which
Yeah.
lots to talk
And
about that.
and I think it's a very interesting conversation because it can be so polarized. And I think that's because we don't have enough information, or we're fed an imbalance of information.
Yeah, there you go.
So the imbalance of information that's out there then can tend to overshadow the benefits that are there with with the products and with this particular plant. And then
Yeah,
there's also confusion, right?
yeah, there is.
There's the whole confusion. So I'm so glad that we have this opportunity to clear the confusion, to get a little bit of a better understanding of how we can use this, because I think it is a wonderful plant when it's used for healing purposes. And my opinion, which I will state, is that many moons ago, before we had chemical processes for healing purposes, we used things from the earth.
Yep.
Whatever was available that our ancient people found wisdom through, all over the world, not just, in one side of the world where we say, oh, there's a Western and Eastern. It's all over the world. All the peoples all over the world were finding and using things that would help them heal or elevate in their spiritual experience, however you wanted to use that.
Yeah.
So I am going to let you tell the peoples and kind of clear the confusion from about this plant.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, great. Well, let's get into it a little bit because it all first we'll start off with we're talking about hemp and cannabinoids, CBD derived from hemp. We're not talking about marijuana on this conversation.
Okay.
We've got great experts that can actually, I can introduce you that have the understanding about medical marijuana and how marijuana is used. Marijuana is grown short and bushy. It's grown for a high concentration of THC. That's what gets high. So that's most people think when when I was asked to, launch a company to bring CBD to the world, people think, oh, I'm going to be a drug dealer, and what's going on? And I'm like, no. That's what I thought because I said, no, I'm not going to teach. I taught my kids not to do drugs. What are you talking about?
Right.
Like, no, you don't understand. And foremost authority for Titus was my initial and is my mentor today and the founder of the company I represent, Anyway. So we'll talk about that as we go forward. But the difference is two different trees in the cannabis forest. You've got marijuana, as I just described, and then you have hemp. Hemp
Mm.
grows tall and lengthy, like bamboo. It's
Okay.
grown for a very low concentration of THC, but very high concentration of CBD, cannabidiol, and other cannabinoids that
Mm.
this beautiful hemp plant produces. So most people think about hemp back in the early days, 1600s. Our founding fathers came over. They brought hemp. They grew hemp. There was hemp rope, hemp sails, hemp clothing, and feed. We fed our livestock hemp, not genetically modified corn, you know. So we ingested that livestock. We got the benefits of hemp, all those cannabinoids that support our body. And we'll talk about that in a second. So but then it was back in 2737 BC when the Chinese Emperor Shenyang first used cannabis for medical reasons. And so we think, like you said, many, many moons ago, people from all over the world have incorporated this plant, holy anointing oils, all
Mhm.
kinds of things. And so when our founding fathers brought hemp over and we started to grow it in the 1800s, it was part of the American pharmacopoeia. Our base oil for the majority of our pharmaceuticals had the base oil of cannabis. And this is so fascinating to me. So, we were part of the American pharmacopoeia. Cannabis use was everything from cramps to seizures and you name it. And it was part of our society. It was part of our well-being. It was part of our diets.
Mm.
What happened back in the 1930s? There was the Marijuana Tax Act because, of course, the cotton trade and other trades did not like that, this was encroaching on their kind of territory, and so be it. But in 37, they passed the Marijuana Tax Act, which made hemp and all cannabis illegal. Not just marijuana, but this beautiful hemp plant that didn't have any intoxicating effects that we use for industrial purposes. I mean, there's over 20,000, 40,000 uses for hemp. I mean, everything from now hemp batteries, hemp biofuel, hemp building materials, hempcrete, stronger than concrete. I mean, all these industrial applications are here, are here today because now, the passage of the Farm Bill said, okay, back a few years ago, saying, no, hemp is not a Schedule One drug, and we can start to bring it back. And
Mm.
our company actually had a big hand in lobbying for the laws to change and everything because this beautiful plant had more than just well-being, wellness for our bodies, but also those industrial applications. So, that we've come a long way, a long, long way, but in a very short period of time. So at least we know now the differences between hemp and marijuana. Today we're talking about the hemp plant and cannabinoids, how they affect our well-being, which I'll get into shortly. But any questions about that kind of history of hemp and how it was so important to our well-being, being in part of the American pharmacopoeia?
I think it's what is interesting to me is the full circle. So now we're back to, having to fight for something that was already there, that was taken away. I could definitely go on a tangent about industrialization and capitalism and some of the things that has impacted. And now we see the way that that's impacted our health and our well-being. And not just our physical health, but also our mental health. And I think that, you know, I'm glad that we've incorporated it back into the system and
Yeah.
into I don't know if it's all over North America or just in the United States. I'm in Canada, so I don't know what's going on over here, to be frank.
Yeah, no. I mean, Canada right now, I mean, they legalized marijuana,
Yeah.
so they won't allow any importation of any of these types of products to
Oh,
Canada because they're growing their own, and they
got
want
it.
you. And there are some countries like that, but for the most part, like our company, products are in over 47 countries now, but
Mm.
we'll get into why that is and everything. But you're right, it's coming full circle where something that we always had was taken away from us. And then when we think about, okay, 1930s to where we are today, and then we think about, okay, spike in all the cancers and autism and ADD and seizures and all those things. Could it be that that had something to do with it? And I will tell you, yes, it is. And that's been scientifically proven, because it was only in the early 1990s that Dr. Raphael Mechoulam discovered the endocannabinoid system, which every mammal has. So we have an age-old plant, new health science. It was only discovered, Dr. Raphael Mechoulam was looking at, okay, what's going on with the runner's high and the endorphins and all that. And that led him to the discovery of the endogenous cannabinoid system. It's a 12th system within our bodies. We have a muscular system, a respiratory system, all our systems. Well, the endocannabinoid system is a system, and it was just recently discovered when we think about the timeline.
Wow, we need to know. Tell us a little bit more about that. Now, I know we're not going to have a huge scientific conversation, but I think a little bit of understanding of the system will help us then see how beneficial the use is.
Yes, absolutely. Well, first of all, this endocannabinoid system is the body's largest self-regulatory system in our bodies. It's responsible for balance or homeostasis between all bodily functions. This is not me saying this. This is now science. So we have CB1 receptors in our brain and our nervous system, and CB2 receptors in our gut, in our visceral area that supports the immune system. Now, we have oxidative stress. Everyone knows about that, the free radicals that are out there and all the stressors on our body. And then we have, we have antioxidants, right, in our body that we produce. Well, the whole point is to get both of those in balance. And when we're out of balance with too much oxidative stress, which causes all kinds of dis-ease in the body, our bodies are in trouble. And so why this industry now exists is because the discovery of this endocannabinoid system is here, and it's now, and it's not like you can feed it vitamin C or other vitamins to support it. The only thing that can support it are cannabinoids. So we produce cannabinoids within our bodies. We do it naturally. They're called endocannabinoids within. And they're most prevalently found in mother's breast milk, which we can get into another conversation of why that is just so important. But then they degrade because those cannabinoids that are produced within our bodies, 2-AG and anandamide, they disintegrate, or they deteriorate very, very quickly because we're not being fed, from external sources, phytocannabinoids found in plants, primarily in hemp and the cannabis plant. That's what feeds this endogenous cannabinoid system. So since we're not feeding our pigs, our cattle, our sheep hemp, and we're getting those nutrients that way, the only way to deal with the problem of not having enough is to ingest phytocannabinoids found from plants. And that's where we get CBD, CBG, and other cannabinoids. We'll talk a little bit about some of the major ones in a bit. But what's interesting is Dr. Ethan Russo, back in 2004, basically postulated clinical endocannabinoid deficiency syndrome. This is a medical term. And he basically felt that our bodies are so out of balance by not having this important nutrient, things like lupus and fibromyalgia and things that we didn't know, well, what caused this and why is this happening? He has coined this term, which is now in medical journals and everything, clinical endocannabinoid deficiency syndrome. So if we have this deficiency, how do we support it? How do we supplement? And the only way that we can at this point is by taking plant-based phytocannabinoids found from hemp and a good quality source. And we'll talk about what people should look for, okay? But hopefully people now understand why we need it. We produce cannabinoids, endocannabinoids. We're not feeding that system. The only way to feed it is with phytocannabinoids. And, who knows now, like, remember I said that timeline in the 30s to where we are today?
Yeah.
And just in 2004, Dr. Russo, said, hey, this is why there's so many things happening. We're not feeding this important system that was newly discovered. And so that's why this industry is here. It's here to stay. Yes, it's only been, 10, 12, 15 years, if that the first ever cannabinoids were brought to market by our company. And I'm very, very proud of that. That's why I'm here, because of the innovation and fighting the fight and changing the laws and lobbying and all that went in 10 years prior to bringing in 2012 the first ever commercially CBD product to the world was our company. And now everyone is kind of getting involved in it, and rightfully so. However, unlike Canada, we're starting to get some good regulatory laws and things like that, because it's not a regulated industry. It's becoming that way. And now people are starting to understand, well, I can't just buy something at the gas station. This is a serious supplement, and anybody like you are in wellness know that it's important to have quality, and so that's where we are today.
Oh my gosh, there's so many things going on in my head, right? Right now, it's like, wait a minute, hold on. So how do we then get this information to our everyday general physician who is like, you're going there saying, I have this, and you discover you have these things. It's not their first line of defense is not to go and look at, CBD or most of the time, not some natural resource or source that can help with that. So how are you as an organization being able to lobby for to the doctors and saying, hey, hello.
Hello. Well, it is that knock on the door. That's so important that you said that, because, okay, so first the laws had to be changed. Now we are here. It's actually being, my niece just graduated. She lives in Ottawa, and she is a doctor. And, she was saying, wow, we're just starting to learn about this. Because remember, the doctors, like my age and our ages or whatever, they weren't trained in this. They weren't trained in homeopathy and all that. That's why we have naturopaths, and we have so many people that have come to us on the holistic or alternative side of medicine. But we know now that doctors now are starting to want to learn, because remember, they weren't trained in this. The younger generation now coming in are, okay, because this is science now. So, but again, most of us all think about, getting high, THC, what's that going to do for your body? But now that there's over, 30,000 clinical studies. I mean, you can Google CBD and anything, and you're going to see studies. No matter what it is, and then there's a lot of great information out there. And there's some misinformation out there because people are thinking an old way. And so how are these doctors finding out about this? It's by having an open mind, and it's about having, tens of thousands of fans around the world going and knocking on, like I have, doctors that I know that have said, hey, my patients are coming in asking, I don't know where to point them, because I'm not trained in this. And that's where we come into play, to do that, and then to point them into the right direction or educate them on where to start looking at this information. Because let's face it, if you're using a natural and botanical product, it's not like you have to worry about, I guess, no, I shouldn't say that, overdosing and everything else, like opioids and all this other thing. But yes, of course, some natural, products can have a toxicity, but that's not what we're talking about here. So they need to go to people they know and trust, or people that are educated in this topic, like I am and many others, so that they can get the information so that they can feel comfortable recommending it to their patients. At least know why they need it, why they should try it. It's an antioxidant, it's a neuroprotectant, it's anti-inflammatory. The list goes on, antispasmodic, these are, there's a patent in the U.S. patent claiming cannabinoids as antioxidants and neuroprotectants. It's U.S. patent 6630507. So this is, again, we're not just talking about fluff here. We're talking about science. So an open-minded doctor should say, okay, somebody needs to learn. And now, there's a lot out there, people like myself that can educate them, and then they can confidently go to their patients and with a recommended source. Because now that you've said, oh, well, why don't you try CBD? Well, which one? And that's the problem, I think, that is now where we're hoping to change as a result of getting in front of and showing what they need to look for, purity. And we'll get into some things that people need to look for. I mean, our product is listed um, in the physician's desk reference, the PDR, which is a journal, a medical journal where doctors go to how to treat certain things. Our CBD is the only product listed in that, the only cannabis product listed in that prestigious journal. So, they have to look for quality. They have to look for someone that can guide them and how they can start utilizing the products. And it's almost like, at this point, there's plenty of symposiums. I know what we've done with some of my colleagues around the world is held some medical symposiums. I've spoken to Lynn about that. I mean, because you're going to align with a company, you want to make sure that you can provide the information, provide quality products, and then how to use them, right? And so we've done some medical symposiums in different cities around the country. This was right before COVID hit. And we're starting them up again because that's how people will come to learn, hopefully.
Yep. I have a question based on what you were
Yes.
sharing earlier, which is what different, because you talked about it being an anti-inflammatory. We talked a little bit about lupus earlier and fibromyalgia, but what other diseases or other medical issues can be helped by the CBD?
Oh yeah, and when I mentioned lupus and fibromyalgia, that was how Dr. Russo finally came to the understanding that, hey, we don't know why certain things happened.
Mhm.
Could it possibly be? And that's where, he says, yes, the system is. So everything, I've been at this now, studying this product for over 11 years now. I am a founding member of Canaway and the company that brought these cannabinoids to the marketplace to begin with. Um, and it is, um, I don't want to digress. Your question was just go back
Of
to what you,
course, the question
yeah.
is, what issues, I guess I'm going to say that.
Oh,
What
issues. Yes, yes, that's
issues?
where we were. Yeah.
Yeah.
So everything like, from A to Z, if you're thinking about if this puts the body into balance,
Mm,
I mean, well, what can be, what can be addressed? And that's where, with all the studies, there's studies on cancer, on seizure disorder. There's all like we don't claim that this is going to treat or cure anything, but if you give the body what it needs and you put the body in balance, also hydrate, eating good foods, the whole thing. But
yeah.
in this particular case, with supplementing the endocannabinoid system, if it's responsible for homeostasis in all bodily functions and everything is working in harmony together, then just like with some of the studies around cancer, they were showing that CBD helps stop the growth of cancer and causes apoptosis, cellular death within the cancer cell. These are research that's going on. But then
Mhm.
you have your own, we use word of mouth. Our company uses direct sales to get the message out there. And everything, when I say A to Z, from infants to seniors, our fluffy friends also, cats, dogs, horses, every mammal has this endocannabinoid system. And what my colleagues, me personally, have seen through these last almost 11 years now, it's just been crazy, and to hear from athletes, Olympic athletes with, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE, concussion trauma, and
Mhm.
how, they were hooked on opioids and drugs, and that was spiraling them into a different place where they didn't want to be, then finding more natural solutions and how, again, studies are out there about CTE and other things. So, when we talk about this and like, yes, I'm recommending, we're talking about a certain product. I want the audience to understand we don't claim to treat or cure anything. When you give the body what it needs, the body does what it needs to do, so it's not just one magic bullet, we have to eat right. We have to hydrate. We have to, keep our mental health sharp and get enough rest. And with this discovery of the endocannabinoid system, this is why we're having this conversation. It is, now that I've learned what I've learned, this will always be a part of me and my family's diet because it's not like anything can replace it. I mean,
Yeah.
we just, it's that education and that knowledge and giving people hope. Hey, try this. Yes, in conjunction with whatever it is that you're currently doing. And we have a lot of people that we work with that we see, okay, they're on certain meds that maybe they want to reduce or get off, and they start to now do more natural approaches to healthcare. And now they start to see that reduction. Some people staying on lower doses of their meds and coming off. You just never know. But if you put the body in balance, the body can do amazing things. And I always come back to that.
I love what you're saying, and you're exactly right. You're coming back to the balance. That's what holistic treatment is about. It's holistic. It's all of the things. It's mind, body, spirit, soul, all of it connected. And understanding, I think what maybe is a missing out there is ourselves understanding our own bodies and our own systems. And maybe that's where, we can do a better job, meaning society, I guess, and in schools, is actually each of us understanding, oh, we have these systems. Okay, I took the last science class I took was in grade 9.
I know.
That's it. And everything else, because I'm an avid learner, I begin to learn on my own as I go down a rabbit hole. Or for most people, it happens when something's happened to you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Like you were saying that earlier, there's some sort of impetus that starts and ignites this search for how do I get better?
Right.
Or,
and we are creatures of comfort. We go to people we know, like, and trust for information, right? I mean, that's what the whole point is to really get this message out there. That's why our founders of our company, instead of like doing like billboards and going a traditional route, something sitting on a shelf, this had to be educated, it had to be talked about. And so that's why they chose marketing or direct sales to get the product to the market. When you think about from nobody hearing about it to hundreds of thousands of people in 47, 48 countries and other countries, even like Canada, like laws are changed. Like that all started just about 11, 12 years ago.
And let's talk about the company. We keep saying the company, but this company now sounds very interesting, and I want to know more about it.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I'm very, very proud of it. Our parent company, company, Conaway, was launched to be the direct sales arm of getting this product to market. Traditional forms of advertising would not do. Stories had to be told. People's personal stories of perseverance over things. I mean, whether it be a nonverbal autistic child is now mainstream school, things like that just change your life. After some of the things I've seen, there's no other place I can be than here speaking to people like you, because that's how the message is going to get out there. That's how, by us developing teams of people that go out and educate the way we are doing here, whether it's one-on-one conversation, on a podcast, in front of tens of thousands of people, which I've been a part of over the years. I mean, it's just mind-blowing, and it's going to continue to be that way. That's why we're always looking for people to say, hey, yes, I want to know more. I want to add this to my practice. Hey, I'm a single mom and I'm looking for a job that I can be around with my kids, show me how I can replace my income and help other people, so we have that component to it. But the most important thing is circling back to, yes, we need CBD. Yes, we need to incorporate these cannabinoids into our daily diets. What do we need to look for? And, Canaway set the standards. We were the first. We were the first company ever to bring products to market. Many have followed suit, but we've set the standard. There was no regulation when it came to testing. We set the standard of triple lab testing, having certificates of analysis available with a barcode. Don't get any product, you guys, unless you know where the product is sourced, and there's COAs of what's in it, what's not in it, how safe is it, like all that stuff. You must have that. Of course, our company, Canaway, we do have that. That's why, Lynn, we're having this conversation, and why that she thought that this was so important for her people to choose the right product. So you need to make sure it's pure, organic. We grow our crops in organic biodynamic farms, that are free from pesticides and chemicals and herbicides and all that. So certified organic under FDA guidelines, so that the product is pure. And then at the end of the day, it's okay, you've got all those certificates of analysis. Now you have a good product. How much do I need to take? What is the recommended daily allowance? Well, guess what? There isn't one, but there is a school of thought right now, because again, such a new industry, is, if you're under 50 pounds, you start small, 10, 20 milligrams, you're over 50 pounds and you're healthy, 50 milligrams a day of CBD. If you're dealing with issues as we start to age, little or swelling of the joints and maybe lack of sleep and low energy, well, then you increase it. Some people take 100, 200 milligrams a day. But again, this is of the natural botanical form. Watch out for the synthetics out there and for those kinds of things, because you don't want to go there.
Yeah, of course.
You don't want to go there.
Let's talk about that for a minute, because I think it's important that now we understand the benefits and we understand it's important for it to be pure and organic. Well, I think it should be organic, of course. It's better for the body. You don't want to ingest all those chemicals. What should we watch out for? Like, for vitamins, you want to watch out for fillers and different things, and how capsules are made and all of that you want to do. And we've been told and taught about that. So for the audience that's listening, what do we really want to watch out for? What do we want to look for?
Well, you want to make sure that the product is what it is. Like I was saying, first of all, make sure it has some what we call COAs, so that you can see that there's no arson, no impurities in there. And what's in the bottle is actually in the bottle, because with nutritional, like vitamins and stuff, there's a lot of stuff out there. There aren't even vitamins in it. It's all those fillers. Here you want to just look for CBD oil, CBD derived from hemp, and that should be the ingredient. And maybe organic MCT oil as a carrier oil, but there should not be any other fillers or binders or anything like that in product. Same when you start to think about CBD. It's an antioxidant, it's a neuroprotectant. It helps with of inflammation, energy, cognitive function, those things, reduction of discomfort or pain in the body. That's what cannabidiol is, known for. So you want to see what that is. Then if you're dealing with a reputable source like our company, we also have all other phytocannabinoids that are within the plant, and plant waxes and chlorophyll and flavonoids and terpenes, all the goodness of the plant. You want to make sure that that's in there. That's part of it. So you're not just getting fragmented amounts. You're not getting any synthetic amounts of CBD derived from synthetic sources or whatever. You have to really look for that purity. And that's just what it is, CBD. Or if it's cannabidiol, CBG, that helps with mood and depression, you want to see that that's the only thing that's in there, other than potentially like a carrier, hemp seed oil, or we use organic MCT oil. You'll find it. But other than that, that's it.
That is so important for us to know. And I think it's, it's the statement of when you're looking for whole products, it won't have a lot of stuff listed.
That's right.
Will have things that you can understand, that are clear for you, that don't say this, this, and this, and then you get lost in the label is this long.
Well, and that's true. In this situation, you'll have, yes, maybe at a fair, you'll see somebody selling CBD oil. All right. And they'll say, oh, yeah, it's just CBD. Okay, great. Where is the certificate of analysis? Do you provide one? Because a lot of people are doing homegrown things and different things, and if they can't prove that that product is organic, because again, this is something, when you start to incorporate and feed this endocannabinoid system, what's very important is this is not something you take when you have a headache. This is a daily supplement. Just like I drink water and you drink water every day, this is not something you take when you feel like it. Most people have come to learn about CBD and cannabinoids and everything because there's an issue, right? There's some issue going on. They want to feel better. They have too much. They heard about it, through all these years. I guess we did a really good job of getting the message out there, because now there's a lot of companies, good companies too, in this space, obviously. And the more the merrier, because our goal is hemp in every home. That's what our company's philosophy is we need to have hemp in every home, and from industrial eventually to now feeding this endocannabinoid system. But even though it may say that, make sure, I want everyone here, this, if you take nothing else away, yes, we need this, and we need to take it every day. Okay. And you'll find the right amount of milligrams. Like we may have a conversation and you may say, oh, I'm trying to target this, that, and the other thing. And then based on that, I'm going to say, all right, let's start with 50 milligrams a day. And these are the different cannabinoids. Oh, you have sleep issues? Great. Then we're going to look at CBD, cannabidiol, and that is CBN, cannabinol. That's going to help you with sleep. It works on the sleep receptors. I didn't say that. There's science that says that. Because now, as you know, the industry is growing, and as there's more and more research and more science, people are starting. They're finding is, oh, this cannabinoid will deal with this. CBG will help with stress, depression, anxiety, focus. I mean, I have seen countless kids and adults that suffer with, they're a little scattered, and you have that kind of going on, focusing issues. Um, no, it's like night and day. It's like a switch just went on for many people. And it's not like it's this miracle thing in one dose. No, this is starting to supplement that system. And people find within a couple of days or a couple of weeks, sometimes maybe longer, depending on what it is, but with daily use, just like we drink water every day, you're going to start that endocannabinoid system that's responsible for balance is going to start to function better. And when that happens, people start to see things happening. Too many times, though, we have people, oh, I bought this at the gas station. They told me to go get CBD. I saw it at the gas station. I saw it at the fair or something, and it did nothing. Well, guess what? Nobody educated them on how much they should be taking, what they should be looking for, that they needed to take it, at least every day, maybe twice a day, depending. There was nobody to teach them how to utilize it, or it wasn't there. It was hemp seed oil in there. It was olive oil in there. It was anything but, or it was 10 milligrams in the entire bottle, and you need 50 milligrams a day. So a bottle should last you a month, if that's the case for most people. Not, so how much is in there, the quality of it, the quantity, how to use it. That's what you get when you now come to your directory. You're going to get, someone that's going to help your clientele be guided along how they should be utilizing and what they should be looking for.
And I was just going to say that, and you said it for me. What I was going to say is, we need to have someone that we can speak to and talk to. And, a lot of us get on Google, ChatGPT, wherever, and become our own doctors and our own naturopaths and yes, we need to understand our bodies, and we need to know what's going to work for our bodies. So it's important to know that, but then to also go to the experts that can help and assist you in that journey to have that holistic health approach. And I'm so glad that you are part of our organization and that we do have the Canaway products listed on our products directory. So if you're looking you just want to peruse the products, you can go to that part of our website. But I think it's also important not just to do that, but then to have a conversation with someone like you, and your information is going to be available on the site as well. So it's just a wonderful relationship that's being created here. And I learned so much today that I had no idea. I knew, okay, honestly, I'm just going to say it straight. Like, okay, you take weed if you want to sleep, if you're anxious, if you have depression, if you want to get high, those are the things that I knew. I know hemp hearts. Have hemp hearts.
Yes.
Put them in your protein shake and have hemp hearts. You know what I mean? Add this, but I didn't.
Omegas, great for omegas 3 and 6.
I didn't understand that you need something every day. And I'm a woman in perimenopause. So, I'm like, focus, sleep, anxiety.
I know what you're talking about.
And it's funny, I don't have hot flashes. I have cold flashes. I'm on the opposite. And I had to look it up because I had never heard of anyone having cold flashes.
Interesting. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, I looked it up. I'm like,
suffered with hot flashes.
Are cold? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. That was my first experience. It's so funny because they say, when I was asked, 11 years ago to come sit down with Dr. Titus and talk about the launching of this company that was going to be doing this, I was like, and at that time I was in your situation. I think I'm a little bit older than you. So that was 11 years ago. I sat there in that boardroom and having one of those situations. And Dr. Tice turned around and said, in another couple of weeks or something, those are going to be gone. And I'm like, oh. And sure enough, within the next month or two, those went down from 100% down to 10%. So
Wow.
then it just, that was my own personal experience. Never mind what happened with my husband, my children, and my sister, family, friends, and then of course hundreds of thousands of people in 47 countries. It's just incredible, but it all started with that. So it's funny that you mentioned.
Well, I was gonna, because we got these podcasts are for me too. Okay, so
yeah. I'll make sure I'll be able to recommend, and I'm so glad. I want to make sure I just thank you guys for being so open-minded, Lynn and so for having maybe a part of your directory and a member of your trusted group to be able to educate people, because that's really the foremost important thing that we can do is help people with the knowledge so that they can make the right decision for themselves, and then have a human that they can talk to, not just chat GPT. We're getting kind of into that space where you have somebody say, oh, in 3 days, nothing's really happened. Hey, stay the course. Because you're not going to get that, any other way than through this beautiful directory and what you're providing to people. I really want to thank you guys for that.
Well, I would say you're welcome, but also thank you for all of the wonderful people that we have on the directory, like yourself, who are out there trying to make a difference for people from a holistic standpoint. It's so important. I was maybe 10, 15 years ago, corporate girl in the corporate world, nothing in where I am now today. And it all came through my own journey, like each one of us have, and then educating myself into what can I do differently. And I think that's so important, is that when you're looking for something different, I don't want to always say alternative, because we call this alternative medicine, but this is
complementary.
It's complementary, right? It's not alternative. It is something that came
holistic
centuries and centuries and centuries ago.
Yeah.
And so we're just getting back to what works the best for our bodies, and learning that there's a system that, most of us don't even know about, that was just recently discovered.
Yeah.
2005, you said, right? That's so recent.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Right?
It's crazy.
And so,
well, we've come a very long way in this short amount of time. But with that, industry, like regulatory agencies have to be, get on board, and they have to be more involved in everything right now. Like right now, as we're speaking, we're part of the European Hemp Association that helps to govern things, and also in the United States. And, in Italy right now, there's something going on. There's a big hearing going on because they want to outlaw it again, the government, because of, pressure maybe from pharmaceuticals companies or whatever. They're looking to go backward. And now they're like, oh, no, that's not going to happen. And so the more of us that are here that understand that we have to fight the fight about holistic and complementary approaches to healthcare, our medical community wants to know this. Where you're starting to see acceptance with many, many medical professionals, and the ones that say, well, gosh, I just can't sell it out of my practice because, I wasn't schooled in it, and licensing and all that kind of bureaucratic stuff. That's where we come in, right? So we have these kind of conversations and give people the confidence that we're not just trying to sell them something. There's so many wonderful products out there. I know it can get very overwhelming. Well, how much, peptide should I take, and vitamins do I take, and GLP-1 and mushrooms now, coffee with, mushrooms, and how great is that? I'm really enjoying. No, but I'm just saying, there's so much.
Mm-hmm.
But what I want people to understand with this conversation is we do have an endocannabinoid system, and the only thing that can support that are phytocannabinoids that can come from plants like hemp and echinacea and flax and a few other. But we need to supplement on a daily basis And then people are going to see the benefits. And now with CBN for night and CBG for stress, who's not sleeping well and under stress, and CBD is an antioxidant. That's a trio. That's the magic thing. So we're going to be speaking, and I'm going to make sure you're all set up with what you need so that in a month or so you can come back and say, wow, this is really something. We can do a follow-up.
Of course. Why not? Why not? I mean, this is just the start of the conversation.
Of course.
I think for every person I speak with, everything I'm so blessed that I get to have these conversations because I get like I get to ask stuff about myself all the time. And hopefully those questions will help our audience. So I just want to say once again, Valerie, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, your expertise. We will probably have you on again, when the time comes to ask more deeper questions and understanding of this not just this product, this
the science behind it. Yeah, we could do a little symposium for 30 minutes or so on some of the science. We'll come up with some different things.
It's so good. But thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure once again to remind everybody that you can be found on our site, miraclesresources.com. It's miraclesdirectory.com, and we've got different places to go to get to you and us, and it's a beautiful partnership. Thank you so much.
It is. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you for joining us today on Healers Talk Healing. We hope you've been inspired and empowered